Hey guys, today is January 27th. That means we're reading John chapter 19, verses 31 through 42. Yesterday, we were reading about the crucifixion and Jesus dying on the cross, giving up his spirit. And so today was the day of preparation. And it says that he would not remain on the cross on the Sabbath because the Sabbath was a high day. The Jews asked Pilate to break their legs. It was against Jewish laws for a man to be executed during this time. And so because they were Jews, they couldn't come and get the bodies, they couldn't do anything. They wanted to expedite the crucifixion process. See, when we think about crucifixion, we think of something happening in just minutes or an hour like Jesus did. But crucifixions normally lasted days and days. Normally, it was an art of execution that they would basically dehydrate and that would be the cause of death. They would actually dehydrate. They'd sit up there for 4 or 5 days until literally they just died. It wasn't because of the wounds like Jesus. Jesus was kind of the different scenario. And so it says that the soldiers came and broke the legs of the first. So they came and brought a big hammer, sledgehammer, and basically hit them in their kneecap so it'd break their legs, so that they were no longer allowed to push off their feet to give pressure off of their arms and off their legs so they could breathe. That's what a crucifix would do. They would push on their feet, which would be nailed, which would cause pain. They could lift themselves up, they could breathe, and they would go back down, now causing pain in the hands. It was perpetual pain. And so they break the legs so they could not do that, basically suffocating them to death. Well, they do both thieves. When it comes to Jesus, it says that they didn't do that. But what's really neat about this and about how God works and how Scripture works is that instead of doing that, they pierced his side. This is really odd when you think about it. If you're a soldier and you are executing them and you want them done quick, you do the first thief, break his legs, he suffocates to death, just a minute. The second one, just a minute. They come to Jesus and they say, oh, he's already dead, we don't have to do this. But then he goes and puts up the hammer, gets a spear, and then stabs him in the side. It would have been so much easier for him just to break the legs and just to make sure. 1 minute, suffocation, done. There was no reason to go put that down to get a spear. But the reason that this happens is because God has orchestrated this from the very beginning, and we can see Old Testament prophecy of saying that not one of his bones will be broken. Even though the crucifixion was horrible and all the things that happened, a bone was never broken. Not because the executioners didn't know how, it's because God didn't want it that way. God ordained this at the very beginning of time. And so, again, to fill another prophecy, it says that they will look on him and who they have pierced. So God knew at the beginning that his legs were not going to be broken like the other thieves, and that he was going to be pierced because like the other thieves were not pierced. And so Jesus was different of the other two. And so it's just amazing how all this kind of works to fulfill prophecy. But we can see after this, there was a man, Joseph of Arimathea, that comes, who was a rich man. And he was a secret follower because at this time Jesus had a lot of secret followers because of the Pharisees, because of the Jews. He goes to Pilate, not the Jews, not the chief priest, but he goes to Pilate and says, hey, can I have his body? I want to bury him. And Pilate, of course, he didn't care. He just wanted him gone. And so he go and they do this. But we see in verse 39, a guy that we read many weeks ago, Nicodemus, John chapter 3, for God so loved the world, he gave his only son. This is the man. We see that this fulfills that Nicodemus was saved. He's now a follower of Jesus, and he comes to Jesus by night, and he's bringing him myrrhs and aloes, about 75 pounds, basically to help prepare the body for burial. And so we find out that there's a new tomb. Nobody's ever laid in it. It's brand new in a garden. And so because the Jewish day of preparation, because Sabbath is coming on, they hurry up, they get him in there, and they kind of lay him in this tomb, and they shut the tomb. And it says that, and they laid them there. And so you can imagine that even though it's the crucifixion, all this that happens, really just in a chapter, so much happens, but all of this was according to God's will. It's crazy to think about. Literally hundreds and thousands of years before this even happened, it was already written in Scripture. Old Testament already talked about it. Prophets already talked about it. Psalmists already talk about it. And so the crucifixion was not just an overtaking of Jewish power. It was not something happening outside of God's will. It was completely articulate, down to the very fine detail, part of God's will, that he would die for our salvation. Guys, I hope you're loving this. I hope you're gaining a lot from this and just kind of getting some new insights, and I will see you tomorrow. God bless. Have a great day.